Yeah. Good angry music to start a very angry show. RawMikeRichards.com along with Dave Bastel. Technical director Russell Graham. Become a huge star, by the way. Lots to talk about today, including our good friend John Crick from Post Media, also with the Toronto Sun. I guess they're the both now. And we'll talk a little Buffalo Bills and just NFL in general. And who's that general manager going to be? Good luck. In fact, I think in Buffalo, as a rule, are they just short on general managers in every sport they have?
It's, you know what, if you're a general manager in Buffalo, you're probably looking for a job today. And if you're from Carolina, you're probably getting a job in Buffalo within the next couple of days.
Well, we're going to watch that. We'll talk about LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers as they completely dismantled a Toronto Raptor team and had so much fun. Why? He did a fake beer guzzle during the game. Oh, it was so funny. Was it? What do you think? By the way, for those watching, courtesy of YouTube, I'll be very curious this morning if anyone recognizes the baseball hat that I'm wearing. Anyone recognizes what this team is in baseball, I'll be shocked.
You got me this morning.
Yeah, it's
I had an idea about it, but I was on the wrong side of the United States. Let's just say I was thinking directly east.
Yeah,
there's your hint.
Also, we're going to talk about, a lot of people don't want to do this, but the man with what has been scientifically proven is the world's largest penis. Now, as you know, I'm all about science on this show, and you just have to know whether it's right or wrong. I will tell you that it is right. And the guy who's doing the study speaks with an English accent. So you have to know that he's smart. And the guy, by the way, is 54. So that's got to go pretty good down in the old the seniors' home. And it is a true story because that's what we're all about here on this show. But we're going to start last night. So Pittsburgh and Washington. And Washington, if they go down in this thing, we're pretty much, Dave, probably going to say that it's going to be over. And as you're looking at that game, if you went to bed with, I don't know, about 56 minutes into it, if you left them decide, it's too Cobb, don't really need to see the end of the game, well, you probably did. And rarely does, pulling the goalie, getting a couple of goals with a couple minutes, well, that's exactly what happened. And the Washington Capitals almost cough up that would have been, in terms of their losses, and if you're a Capitals fan, you've had a lot of nights in the fetal position, Dave. If you're a Capitals fan, playoffs not your friend.
I got a lot of texts yesterday and a couple tweets as well saying Holtby must be gassed.
Yeah. So Jake's gonna tweet it again.
he's gonna. But honestly, 2 goals in a minute 53 seconds remaining in the game. It's like
he's got to be. And that last goal, that puck was bouncing like a basketball. Like that thing ends up going over his shoulder.
Yeah.
Like he's got to be looking up skywards going, what did I do in a previous life? I was, better than solid during the regular season. I think we'd all agree on that. And then all of a sudden in this series, which is why I think Capitals fans are starting to feel a little bit cursed. But it goes to overtime. Washington ends up getting the win, which I don't know if it necessarily saves them in this, because if Pittsburgh goes on and wins game number 4, do we really think that this thing is going 7 games? Because
no.
It doesn't have that feel.
No, I think Pittsburgh wins next game, the series is over. I just think if Pittsburgh won yesterday's game, the series was over in a sweep. I thought it was going to be 4, or I thought it was going to be 5. So I'm on pace for 5 right now, but I don't know. I also look at it as you know what, Pittsburgh blew an opportunity yesterday too after that big comeback, and you place everything in order, and then 3 minutes 13 seconds down, 5th defenseman scores. Oof.
Well, and of course, I talk of that, and more importantly, I would suppose, is that Sidney Crosby, the Crosby stitched right onto the back of his jersey, unmistakable who that would be. The controversy of Matt Niskanen, and of course, Sidney Crosby leaves the game. Now, we'll have probably further results today on his status. But Niskanen gets a game
Yeah, a major penalty game is
in
called.
5 minutes.
Yep.
Which probably not that surprising, but the question today is with the NHL, and you spin that wheel of justice, you never quite know. But courtesy of our friends at CBC and Hockey Night in Canada, some interesting angles on the Niskanen hit. So you've probably seen it a million times. But here on the show, your take on what you think should happen later today.
And it's actually not. It's after the play. It's on the way in. It looks like he got it. There. Oh, yeah, there's the cross-check right in the head to Sidney Crosby by Niskanen.
Here's a great angle.
And anytime he's... Oh, boy.
Oh, boy is right.
And anytime you see that with his history of concussions, there are huge concerns.
Okay, so that's it. We'll come back. So the question for Niskanen, and I'll do my take. Number one, as Sid is penetrating really quickly across the top of that crease.
Good word.
Yes. So as a defenseman, you're not sticking one hand out. Your hand's going to be in that position to begin with. And when he starts falling down and turning his back to him, he puts, I think, his stick up there, and is it in the cross-check position? But that would be natural to me as a guy is coming across and putting your hands up. And the reason I don't think it's certainly malicious is that you end up being pushed back into almost the corner by the time that's done. The velocity, the force was coming from the offensive player simply because he was a little out of control when he got spun around trying to get the goal. Now, I think what the NHL is going to look at, and Dave's going to chime in, is the accountability of your stick, not whether it was meant to be malicious or not, but you have to be, as they say, accountable about the stick. But to me, if you're getting 5 in a game for that, then to me anyway, I would be against the suspension. I would say no suspension.
Well, you know what? I disagree with you, but you are correct because we have breaking news from the NHL offices. No hearing for Matt Niskanen today on the Crosby hit. So you are bang on. Now, if I'm judging this, if I'm the Stefan Quintel of the NHL and handing out suspensions and so forth, I'm looking at 1 or 2 games for this because I think it was reckless. I understand the stick coming up, but you could also say that, one hand on the stick, glove up. Matt Niskanen also, Mike, is a reputation player. And if Matt Niskanen's on my team, I like it. If he's not on my team, I don't. And you think you know where I'm going there. He's a little bit of a questionable, of a dirty player. He has his ways about him. He's a former Penguin. He knows how things work on both sides. And you know what? For the most part, if you're going to take a guy out of the game, which one would you want to take out? Well, that's number 87. So I don't know. And the other thing I think the referees missed yesterday was the tomahawk that Ovechkin delivered on Crosby. Where the hell was the flag on that? Yeah. And no, I'm not saying flag as in, there's actual flags, but that should have been a penalty. Yeah. That should have been a penalty too. So, but we do have confirmation. The NHL will not be looking at this, and there is no hearing slated for Matt Niskanen. Play on.
If indeed you see an absence from Crosby, and of course you already know that Letang's not playing, does it make a difference at the end of the series? Does Pittsburgh still go on? Do they win without him? Would they win a game 4 without Sidney Crosby?
That's a big question. That's a massive question. They played so well without Chris Letang, and but guess what? Sidney Crosby's a different, complete beast. We're looking at the Hart Trophy winner of the NHL this year. I don't know. I think
they do, Dave. I think Pittsburgh would still win.
That's
because they got guys who can step it up. And you know what? I think very often we don't talk about the job that Sullivan is, like Sully, as we like to say in the hockey world. The job that he's done from almost day one, coming in with a team that was, okay, there's a couple things. Offensive-minded, coupled with the fact that defensively not very accountable. And number 3, I'll be honest, talking about Pittsburgh in the postseason, the one thing that I would talk about is, Dave, if you put physical pressure on them, if you want to play a more physical game, they rolled over. To me, that's what their resume would have said. That's what their reputation says. If you want to get after them, including the Malkins, and Malkin's a big guy, but do you think he really wants to play a little bit of the nasty? My response at that point a couple of years ago, pre-Sullivan, no, he doesn't want to play that style. He doesn't want to do that. Now they're not afraid to do it, and it's made a world of difference.
Yeah, it has. I'll be curious to see what happens. I'll also be curious to see what actually happens with Crosby, because there were a lot of reports yesterday, Mike, that Crosby walked off and walked away from the arena no problem. Actually had interaction with one of the workers there and kind of gave him the old thumbs up that everything's okay. So you kind of read for what that is. We just don't know for sure, but you know what? Part of me would not be surprised if Crosby's in place for a game number. I guess that would be game number 4.
We will take your tweets if you want to get in today on the show. We've got one from Coach Frank who's talking about. Remember, he said, when does Malkin play his best? When his team and when Crosby is out of the lineup. Hashtag RMR Live. We appreciate that, and I think it's true. So we'll find out. And again, for Holtby, I mean, he's got to be looking up to the sky, thinking, something's got to go his way. I don't know if it's that, but this Pittsburgh team, substantial. So that was sort of the talk this morning. And once again, as we find out as the show is going on, no hearing. And that will be very interesting for those that wear. I saw a Capitals flag on a car today coming in.
Really?
I'm like,
here?
Who are you? Is it Ted Leonsis? Is it a cousin? Is it a Greek?
Well, we do have a lot. We're not that far away from Greektown,
Greek.
right?
Yes, so study for Peli. Oh, Vicky, if you just heard that, you're like, oh my God, and he speaks
I think you're
Greek
in.
too.
Yeah.
Although she doesn't really talk like that.
No, she doesn't.
She's not Mark Dressman. Coming up later on the program, we're going to hear from John Crick of Post Media, Toronto Sun. We're going to talk a little NFL. We'll talk general managers. Doug Whaley, it's now been a couple of days. He spends a lot of time with the Bills. If you're in Southern Ontario, know that's a pretty big team. They, in terms of who you root for, what does this mean, and where do they go? And right now, this Buffalo team looks like a lot of Buffalo teams where we've seen a revolving door with the coach. You just see a lot of instability with that team. So we'll check in with him.
And it's funny because the Pakulas were kind of heaven sent to the Buffalo area.
Well, and they're really loved by the city.
Yeah.
Like really popular.
And it's like they're building this, they're building that, they're buying the 2 major teams in the city. And you're right, people seem to like them, but I don't think they know how to run a sports franchise. I'm just saying.
You should have got rid of the general manager when you gassed the coach. It makes it so much easier.
Don't listen to the players on the Buffalo Sabres. Jack Eichel isn't a GM. I'm just saying.
This is a family that built like a trying to revive the downtown Buffalo and
by themselves.
But single-handedly, how much that going to cost? All right, let's put up a hotel. But I've always had a good time in Buffalo. Just so you know, my friends listening in Buffalo, I've had a good/dirty time in Buffalo.
Really, eh?
Oh yeah, always had a good time.
My favorite part about Buffalo is leaving it.
Oh, I've had another Brad May story.
Okay. Okay.
Just so you know, if you follow me on Twitter, you saw that he retweeted the fact that when I was a child, I robbed his family's home. I wish I was making this story up. I really wish it was better than that, but it's not. It's probably worse.
When he was retweeting it, was he going, Richards?
Yeah. Actually, Jim Mason from the Stouffville Tribune, so our paper, and in fact, he just retired, said, oh, guess York Regional Police will be in on that cracking that case. Yeah, there's your cold files. But he invited me down. It was just the day after New Year's. We went down and saw a couple of – now, if you're going to go out on the town, I don't care what town you're in. If you're going with guys who play on the local professional hockey team, I'm just saying good things happen. Good things. Good things, if you know what I mean. Last night, the Raptors, it really did look like the Globetrotters playing, was it the Washington Generals?
It really was.
It was to the point where it was a little embarrassing, and we know how the NBA goes, so that doesn't mean every single game you lose by 25 points. But Dave, yesterday on this show, you said the Raptors always lose by 25 points, and we also said, by the way, take the +6 in Houston. If you did both those things,
boom,
you had a good night.
Yeah, you had a great night. And by the way, this Raptor loss by only 11 was very, very, very generous of what we actually saw.
11 sounds like you're only a couple of possessions out of making it a close game.
Hey, they were close.
Yeah,
no, they weren't.
No, they were never close. And at times, when you see the ball going from LeBron to Tristan Thompson, they kick it out. There's Kyrie Irving. That's just 3 names you're throwing out there. The reality is the Raptors don't have the kind of team, and I think to the chagrin of Coach Casey, playing the kind of defense that he's known for. I just don't think they're his kind of players when it comes to that style of basketball. It does not look, and at least if you're a basketball person telling me that you look at that Raptor lineup and you watch the way they play, that the first thing that comes to your mind is that they're a shutdown defensive lockdown team, then I'm obviously watching a different Raptor team.
I think the biggest tell for me was about 120 seconds into the game. They play an alley-oop off the backboard, and LeBron signals for it like it's an all-star game.
He called it.
And it's like, oh, you gotta be. They're too. Honestly, were we playing PlayStation yesterday?
Yeah.
Because that's what it was.
It was, to the point where they're having so much fun that LeBron is all jacked up, and why wouldn't you be? Because he's just running all over this team. That he does the faux, fake, I'm going to have a beer while I'm playing. So it's a little funny. I mean, I'm not that mad.
If you're a Cavs fan, you're
rolling.
Yeah.
This is Benny Hill at his best, probably. If he was like a big, strong black man, I guess.
Yeah.
But courtesy of our friends at TNT, this is what it looked like if you did miss it. And once again, he didn't drink the beer, so,
Love jumps out. The successful switching continues, and it leads to another Toronto turnover.
No way.
James whipping by despite the foul.
He's dancing.
Would have gotten the call
And
won. What an effort by LeBron James. And here's it from this crowd.
Yes.
What a tremendous effort. It would have been a fantastic finish. But on the other end, J.R. Smith with the great D causing a turnover.
Okay, here's the other thing about the Cleveland game that I like. Okay, the PA announcer, is it Barry White?
LeBron James.
Who do you like that?
I
think it's you got to like it if you're a local. But
my favorite was always Rod Rowdy and the Price is Right guy that did the Laker games.
Oh yeah,
He was good.
that was he's no longer with us.
No,
right?
he's gone.
Yeah.
That was during the James Worthy, Magic Johnson,
the
little
Lake
bit
Show.
Yeah,
The Lake Show.
the
days.
real show. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Fabulous forum.
Okay, going back to that Raptors Cavs game. In a nutshell, if you missed the game, LeBron James had a party in an arena and decided to bring in some friends called the Raptors to host them, and he wanted to show off and have some fun while playing an NBA round 2 opening game. And that's what it was. And everybody had their laughs if you were part of the right team. And we made fun of Nashville the other day for wearing those yellows. No different in Cleveland. They were yellowing it out too.
But that was, some of them were undershirts.
Well,
Cleveland.
It is Cleveland.
Yeah. By the way, Russell Graham, our technical producer, who now has a microphone here today, I'm just curious. Are you wearing that? We can't see it. That yellow shirt because of that. Like, are you a Cavs fan? Or are you a Predators fan? Or
Definitely not a Cavs fan.
But how come you're wearing a yellow shirt?
I like the shirt.
Okay, there's a tremendous answer from
That's some
fantastic. And here, if you want to defend or talk about the Raptors, and I know in the NBA you can stink one night, you come back, you make it competitive. They, as in the Cavaliers, took their foot off the gas. That's why it looked like 11 points. I don't think any of these games are going to be necessarily competitive. And there's a couple of reasons for it. Number one, if I'm looking at the Eastern Conference in the NBA, so if I'm putting Cleveland number one, which you should, even though they kind of coasted, weren't overly focused, I didn't think necessarily over the year, but I think when you look at Tyronn Lue, when you look at their coach, he's obviously not a taskmaster. It's not like they're afraid of what they're going to do. That's where I think sometimes if you're up against a better coach, maybe you can win. But it doesn't. When you've got the all-star team that Cleveland does, maybe it doesn't matter. And all of a sudden, they haven't played in I was worried about rust if the game would go over or not. That was a very easy over yesterday because they could do anything they want at will. I also think that when you have a Kyle Lowry who can't function because his back is so bad, he can't sleep, he can't do whatever, and then a DeMar DeRozan who obviously is not interested in playing defense, that combination, this thing could be 4 straight. And guess what? In that conference, if I'm going Cleveland 1, I'm going Boston Celtics 2. Celtics are 2.
Ew, really? Eh?
Yeah,
So they're taking out the because I got Washington to the upset.
But I'm saying if I'm going into the playoffs and I'm taking a look at seedings, even though they had Boston,
even though they
I'm still
reversed,
saying Boston to me is the second best team.
Okay.
And I'm looking at the Raptors going, you're top 5.
I think they're actually 4th, because I think the Wizards beat the Raptors too. If you're looking at the final 4 teams in the Eastern Conference, right?
DeMar DeRozan's like a minus what? Like it's
100.
They spent that money on having him as their franchise guy, and at times, fine. But elite in the NBA? Is he the reason you would win a NBA championship? That's what you have to ask yourself. And truly, if Kyle Lowry isn't 100%, I give them almost no chance. Because Norman Powell. So if you put Powell out there, which he came off the bench, so if he's your second leading scorer, then you can't tell me that you're in the same universe as a Cleveland Cavalier. It's a nice story. But Dave, Norman Powell can't be my second leading scorer in the games that we've seen so far in the playoffs.
No, it was a nice story in round number 1, but you're playing against a different beast here. It's a completely different level of basketball. By the way, Sudsy tweets into us, PlayStation was out in the 80s, he tells us.
What's he know about
I don't know.
anything?
New PS5 coming out in like days, but
Here's a
just saying.
Here's a tweet in from hashtag Fire Bergevin.
Ah,
Buffalo is a dump. Well, there's a little different take on what I had.
I'm going to like that tweet.
You are watching rawmikeRichards.com. You're probably doing it on YouTube, and we want to thank the camera work done by Henry's Cameras. It is Canada's camera store. You'll recognize them, obviously, by the fantastic orange and very bright inside, and they're great people. It's obviously, they've done a nice job with us on, what is it, episode number 6? So only 6 in, and so far, everything's working. Sound is on. There was a pretty girl here earlier this morning.
Thanks, Jinxie.
Yeah.
We got our first call coming up in 8 minutes.
Yeah, and that's right, too. An actual phone call. So we're going to attempt that here, obviously, on the show. Also want to thank Avi Studio and, of course, our good friends at Eggplant. I don't know if they have a slogan, but Canada's Creative Hub.
That what it is? Does it say it on their T-shirts?
I guess that's what they have going. We had an interesting conversation yesterday about hockey gear in the day, especially the helmets. You know what? I couldn't find anywhere images of that Cooper helmet. Maybe they're so embarrassed by the fact they made us
took them down
and humiliated children by making them look like literally.
Okay, was there a goalie that used to wear that at all?
No, never. I don't think there was a pro that ever wore this thing. It was for like younger kids. That's why going to your first junior camp when you're 14.
Sure.
It's a little embarrassing when they look at you and they're like, "Hey, buddy, are you waiting for the half boards to come out too? Did you wear skate guards? You fucking loser! Is your dad out there?" Like, it was just so shit. I mean, it was embarrassing. And guess what? Now I can't find the helmet. Now I can't find the helmet anywhere. I think it was taken down. But people put up some beauties of. We talked about the.
Do you still have it?
The windmill? No.
Yeah, you got rid of it.
The moment that camp was over, and I go to the last day, and I walk out, and Mike Keenan says to my dad, he goes, we can go as far as he wants, but he's got to stop playing like a kid. He goes, he still plays goal like a kid. Now I'm 14 from a small town, and I did. So I did things like rarely chopped guys in the crease. Rarely did I. We're talking almost 1980. So, I mean, you could Billy Smith it up. I mean, literally, you could be Jason from Friday the 13th. I could take your limbs off. You're not getting a call. And I just refused to do that. I also, when the puck was shot in around the boards.
You wouldn't leave your net.
I'm not getting out of that. Why do I have to do all the work? Look, hello, stopping the shots. So the puck would go all the way around. So, you had guys who were a little more seasoned, a couple years older, who were going to obviously play.
The offense could really set up in your zone, eh?
Okay. But, see, there's another conversation of what happens when you play as a kid back in the day where rinks weren't uniform. I mean, we're talking about in the day of Maple Leaf Gardens, the Boston Gardens, the Odd in Buffalo.
Even the Hartford Civic Center was a little different.
Like, you just never quite knew. So just north of the city, and people might remember this, and because there's some beauties. Unionville, which is now one of the most expensive places in this area, but the original arena they had. Ever play an arena that was it was kind of in the corners? It's like, oh God, that's right, corners. It was almost square. Like you go in there and it wasn't this nice rounded. All of a sudden it's like, boink. It was just, that's how it was. So you could, if they were smart and they knew their own angles, they hammer that puck in there, it would kick right out in front that normally would go all the way around the net. This thing would fire like you're playing billiards right out in front. It wasn't that old an arena. It was just they kind of forgot that there are corners in a rink.
Let's round it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in a couple like that. Also, the the all the boards up past the boards where the glass would traditionally be. I've also played with the chicken wire.
Oh, I play with chicken wire.
So chicken wire usually kills the puck and it drops.
Oh yeah, it makes
So-
that flank and it into the thing and straight down,
So
straight down. Oh, I had some beauties. Here's a couple of tweets here. Here's one from Jim. Great show. Glad you're located on the east side of King Street rather than the west side because apparently hashtag out of power. Well, I don't know what's been going on this morning.
Are they really?
Yeah. By the way, as you know, we're broadcasting from the Pacific Junction Hotel. And because it's a Tuesday, it's beer day.
It's beer day.
And if you're like...
I mean, if you want to come down, you could probably walk out with a keg and nobody would know the difference.
But they got all kinds of... Like, if you've ever seen it done, because we're in a row of where there's a lot of great restaurants and, you know, great boozers, as they say over in Ireland. There's lots of boozers here. You saw how they actually put the beer in this thing. I just assume, you know, you take the little trucks, they call them, you know, and you go down the stairs. They don't do any of that now, do
No, they don't. A lot of windows are at street level, and in front of the windows is almost like we'll just say like a man cover, just basically a cover in front of the window. You pop the cover, and there's actual like a little slide that you roll the actual kegs
Yeah.
into the building from the basically from
sidewalk.
the sidewalk, because you just pop it over the curb, roll it, in it goes, bang,
It'd be great to have that in your house. Just
Yeah.
people coming by.
and go
know,
loop.
The 40 Creek Rye guy, here you go. Here's your barrel of rye. Sorry about your problem. We're going to talk to John in just a couple of seconds here, as we seemingly have talked about things Buffalo here on the
Lots
on
of
the
Buffalo
show today.
talk.
Yeah. Have you ever gone there just because, or it's only because of
No,
sport?
it's only because of sports.
You know what? The baseball diamond's pretty good.
It's not bad where the Bisons
play.
Yeah, it's Coca-Cola Field.
Oh,
I don't
that-
know what it's called now. It might be different, but when I went there, it was Coca-Cola Field.
No, that's, you know, and then of course where they shot the Natural. Someone's going to know the name of the old ballpark they had. That's Robert Redford.
They did it in
That
Buffalo.
was in War Memorial Stadium
in Buffalo.
in Buffalo.
I didn't know that.
They didn't show a lot of the Buffalo shots. I noticed.
I was
in
going
the
to
Robert
say.
Redford movie.
I was going to say. Yeah.
Hey fellas, are you shooting? Hey Robert. Just before we go to break, which we're going to do, as we said, we're going to have things on the website. We're going to remove that name blog, I think, at some point, because people don't get it. So we only have so many archive things because, as I said, we're 6 days into it. Give us some slack. We're going to do a bunch of stuff here coming up. We're looking forward to actually, and a couple of guests coming up this week, which is going to be brand new. But so is a phone call from John Crick from Post Media. But before we do that, if we're talking things Buffalo, I mean, I know a lot of people, they're maybe not that big on Rick Jeanneret, but I am. And I just thought it'd be interesting. What if Rick did every sport, and I mean every sport, as a play-by-play guy?
And for Michael Roy, about an 8-foot putt. It's rolling, rolling, rolling. Oh, McElroy, holy McElroy. It's an 8-foot putt, and he's one under par.
There was golf, then of course there was chess.
As it's all quiet, here's Baryshnikov. Oh, knight to bishop. Oh! Checkmate! Pump up the population and Baryshnikov!
Oh, yeah, you don't get a lot of chess calls like that. And, of course, who can forget poker?
As the tension mounts, here's the river for Moneymaker. It's Ace on the river! Ace on the river! Make me some Moneymaker! And he's got the hand where Mama hides the cookies!
One of my favorites. Rick Jeanneret doing every sport known to man. We're just waiting on a call from young John Crick. I think we can still call him that. Taking a look at the NFL, of course. It still seems that, people talking about the draft, but if you're the Buffalo Bills, where basically Doug Whaley has not been involved. I mean, here's how embarrassing it got. They had like this reception for fans was sort of a pre-draft little party thing. You're the general manager. Still are at this moment.
Yep.
Not invited.
Ooh. That's telling you something.
Not invited. That's how So basically, for McDermott and friends, I guess, that are part of the Buffalo Bills, they're the ones who did all the draft moves. I mean, he wasn't even involved. I mean, you know what's coming. There we go. How about that? That creepy music. It tells us that we actually have a phone call for the first time. And from Post Media and the Toronto Sun, we go to our good friend who knows much more than us when it comes to the Buffalo Bills, John Crick. Hey, John, thanks for joining us on rawmikeRichards.com.
Happy to join you. Great to hear you, Mike.
You are the first official phoning guest on the program in its infancy. How does that feel?
Wow. Do I get a special prize for that, like you used to get when you lost the Showcase Showdown, The Price is Right, or what?
No, just don't be shit. That's the prerequisite. Speaking of such things, John, you obviously have spent a lot of time with the Buffalo Bills over the years. The Pegula family, that seems to be really the first family of Buffalo, kind of much loved. But I just thought that that it's surprising that Doug Whaley was let go, but the timing of it just might suggest that, I don't know, are they not understanding the process in the workings of an NFL team? It was just a little awkward to me.
Well, there's two schools of thought on that. One is that if you're going to fire somebody, get rid of him so he's not, a lame duck, and you don't have to, as of February, as happened with the Bills, you don't have to mute him and put him off to the side and make sure he doesn't talk to anybody to embarrassing extents, like I wrote about yesterday with, he's playing with his daughter on the lawn at the end of the annual meeting, a day after the meeting concluded. Bill Belichick had left 48 hours earlier to go scout players down at the University of Florida in Miami, Florida. And here poor Doug Whaley was playing with his daughter on the lawn while all the other teams were, the last of the teams were heading into black SUVs and off to the airport, So that was a pretty stark contrast, which I wrote about. But the other thing is that, we have calendar years, January to December, and we have fiscal years whenever your company's fiscal year starts. Well, in the NFL scouting community, it begins this week. This is the first week of the new year. So if you're going to get rid of people, or if you're going to jump to a new job, this typically is the week that starts to happen in earnest. And of course, there's one other consideration, which is if the Bills didn't quite trust that if they whacked Doug Whaley in January, that he was going to go give all that information to other teams, which is what happened with the Redskins GM when they fired him about 7 or 8 weeks ago. He was hired as a consultant for at least one other team. Then all that information that your scouts have been accruing for 9-10 months, that goes to another team, and the Bills don't need any more disadvantages like that.
In conversation with John Crick from Post Media here on rawmikeRichards.com.
John, when Rex Ryan was fired, and you and I talked about it almost a day after it happened, and we also discussed the situation why Doug Whaley wasn't fired. Do you think the Buffalo Bills ownership group is maybe reflecting back on that day thinking, you know what, why didn't we just clear out everybody at that time and not make such a mockery of what just has happened?
Maybe, although it was clear to, I think, people who saw them in action together, that the Pegulas, I think, had a lot of respect and liked Doug Whaley. Very likable man. His job aside, whether you think he did an okay job, a great job, or a horrible job, Doug Whaley's a nice guy to talk to. And I'm sure they really genuinely had affection for him and wanted to give him every opportunity. But as the season wound down and the leak started coming out about Rex, I think that was probably, they'd lost favor with him, and maybe they do regret that now. But as it happened, they let him hang on. They got rid of him at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning, and they've turned the page on the Doug Whaley era. And as I wrote about too yesterday, I think there's only one other place they need to go, and that's as far as an accountability standpoint, and that's Russ Brandon, the team president, who's had a say or approved or consulted on every major hiring and firing on that team going back to the middle of last decade.
Wow.
Well, John, if we're taking a look at what moves forward, so obviously, when it comes to talk of this week in general managers, is this kind of historically the sort of disruption of franchise that the fans have seen? And look, I'm not saying that they're not great football fans. I think that, Buffalo, considering economically what goes on there sometimes, that they are pretty good football fans, but they really haven't been rewarded. So does the fact that the Pegulas are a part of this thing, does that buy them a little license? Does it buy them some time, or are we getting to a point where the NFL itself are not going to be real pleased with how the things actually run?
Yeah, I think there's probably something to that latter statement there, Mike, for sure, is that, it's not well run. And I think the Pegulas mean well. I think they really want to win because, that wasn't always believed of Ralph Wilson, that, he'd rather hire the cheap guy than the worthy guy, no matter how much it costs. Well, these people, look at the people they fire. There was a report that they're paying between the Sabres and the Bills, between fired GMs and coaches and scouts, that they're paying something like $35 million. When he's a multi-billionaire and one of the richest owners in the NFL, I don't think money is a factor with him. I think he really does want to win. It's just, do they know how to go about doing it? They are very involved, maybe too involved. I remember Doug Whaley at last year's pre-draft luncheon that turned out to be his last one because he wasn't allowed to hold one this year. But I asked him, I said, because he had alluded to it earlier in the news conference, I said, are you saying that every single decision is approved by, or you bounce off the owners? And he said, yes. I mean, they couldn't order another roll of tape, I guess, for the players as they tape them up before the game without asking him. So he's very involved. Now, is he actually making the final decisions on all those things? No, but they would bounce all these personnel and player things by him, and he'd listen to what they want to do. Well, we want to sign this guy, and I guess he would approve it. Is that over-involvement? I think to some degree, yeah. I mean, I think what they need to do for both of those franchises, frankly, is hire a person for the hockey side, a real hockey guy as the president. So he is like the head of the hockey operation, and similarly a head of the football operation, and then your coach and your GM report to him. Now, if it looks as though, or if it is true as it looks, that Sean McDermott, the new 42-year-old head coach, is going to have a role like works on some teams, like with Pete Carroll in Seattle and Bill Belichick in New England and even Andy Reid in Kansas City, that it's basically the head coach is the de facto head of football operations and the GM basically is doing his bidding. That looks like the model that the Bills are going to turn to. And that's fine as long as you empower McDermott to do all those things as the owners, even Paul Allen, the Microsoft founder in Seattle. Let's Pete Carroll run everything. It's your football team, baby, and make us win. And generally he does. So if they allow him to do that, then it can work.
So based on what you just said there, it's a slam dunk that Brandon Beane gets this position, correct?
Sorry, say that again, that Brandon what?
Brandon Beane gets this position as the new Bills general manager.
Well, it's going to be somebody that McDermott likes, and it's going to be somebody that won't mind working for him. If there's any other model, now at his news conference, to be fair, Terry Pegula on Sunday morning did say that they haven't decided on any model, or at least he was vague about it. So in other words, he left the door open for McDermott to be a Carroll Belichick Reid type of Uber boss as coach. They left it open for a president to be hired that they would report to, the GM and the coach. Or maybe the GM is the Uber boss that McDermott reports to. I don't think that's going to happen, though. But they were vague, and they left everything on the table. So I think what will end up happening is they'll have a thin list of candidates who would want to work for the head coach because basically, I mean, GMs want to run their roster because it's their butt on the line, the final 53-man roster, right? They're not going to, as happened with Whaley. If Whaley, it's true, we saw what happened when they switched from Doug Marrone to Rex Ryan 2 years ago. All of a sudden, we started seeing these ex-New York Jets players and ex-Baltimore Ravens players that Rex liked, whether it was Tyrod Taylor or whomever it was, Corey Graham. All these guys started coming in that Rex had familiarity with. Even the guy that punched out Geno Smith in the locker room, remember? EK and Impali? All of a sudden, this guy, 5 days later, is a Buffalo Bill at the training camp in Rochester. So Rex definitely had sway, and in a large respect, Whaley was just doing his bidding. So there are people who would want to do that for a head coach, and there are also good talent people in the NFL that would be like, no, unless I'm the true GM and the coach reports to me, or at least at the very minimum I have the final say on the 53-man roster, then there'll be guys who won't want to do that.
So, John, sticking with the AFC East, if we're we're seeing obviously New England number one, but I'm just curious, when you take a look at what happens with the draft, and we were talking about the Jets, and of course the Jets get another stud out of LSU, sort of a shutdown safety. Can we? Who is in number two? Are the Jets in number two?
No, it's definitely Miami. I think the way they drafted spoke to that, because most of the players they drafted were defensive players. And, of course, they're pretty loaded at their defensive line, but they're older guys. So they drafted replacement players for your Ndamukong Suh, for your Cameron Wake, young guys that'll fill those roles eventually, plus some other plug-and-play players. I presume a couple of them will have a good shot to play or at least get in a rotation. But it looks to me as though they felt confident enough, especially on the offensive side, after free agency and with what they did last year, making the playoffs. I think they're confident that the offense will go to that next step because, of course, Adam Gase, the head coach, is the offensive guru on that team, and did wonders with Tim Tebow as well as Peyton Manning in Denver, and then probably, I guess, it turned out to be Jay Cutler's best year in Chicago was 2 years ago with Adam Gase as the offensive coordinator under John Fox. So I think he'll get as much as you can wring out of Ryan Tannehill, and that's another conversation. But I think their offense will be even better this coming season, and they hope that their defense will become start blending it to become younger. So the fact that they drafted not for immediate, we got to draft this guy to be competitive, that they almost drafted for the future, as I see it on defense, that tells me that they think that they can be just as good, if not better, this year. And if they already made the playoffs last year, then if they think they can be better, they've got to be the number two in that division.
Hey, John, thanks so much for joining us here on the show. There's also some earlier controversy and some very biting remarks about the city of Buffalo itself. And I would say that I have been down there. I've had fun. It's a dirty kind of fun. But are we saying, John, that there's no fun in Buffalo? Have you not gone down there and done some interesting John Crick kinds of things that we are unaware of, that it's impossible to have fun in that city?
If anybody knows me really well, they know that I'm a pretty boring guy when it comes to social partying and activity, so I would not be the best person to check on that. If I stop and get some wings on the way to town, that's one of the most reckless things I might do.
Okay, one time, Dave and I will come down, we will bring the cameras, and we'll show you what real fun is in Buffalo. That's what I'm willing to do for you, John. Yeah.
All right, as long as no cell phones are recording it, I'm all good for that.
All right. Yeah, we'll give it our best shot. Hey, John, thanks so much. Great talking with you, buddy.
Anytime. Great talking to both of you guys again. Thanks.
That is John Crick calling us from Post Media, the Toronto Sun, following the Buffalo Bills and, of course, the NFL as a whole. And as he said, you're going to probably see some movement this week, Dave, on exactly who's filling some of these spots.
I think so, because you have to kind of get everything in order, because the spring camps are going to happen soon. We're here in the first couple of days of May. Everybody's going to start figuring out what's to happen. And the unique thing also about the Buffalo Bills is not only are they going to have to figure out the management side of things, but also the actual game planning and a new coaching staff, a completely new coaching staff. And you know what that means, Mike? New playbooks for the defensive side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball, figuring out where people are going to go, what they're going to use, and who they're actually going to fill these needs with. Because right now, every single team is sitting there, and most of them probably have their answers going, yeah, these guys are penciled into the spots. Now you go through the training camp and the exhibition season and all that kind of stuff, the preseason, and figure out, are these guys worthy of those spots? But every single staff has a game plan. The new ones, the new coaching staffs out there along the NFL, and we're seeing it also in San Francisco, for example, they're figuring out how they're going to actually attack this season.
Well, when you start talking football, you're talking about a different language, as you just mentioned, with different coaches. And when I talk about language, I mean, you can do all the OTAs, but it really is difficult to have some sort of consistency. And I think that's what we've seen in Buffalo. When you keep flipping coaches like that, it's really hard to have any continuity from year to year. So I feel a little sorry for Bills fans on what they've had to go through. Looking at Major League Baseball there for just a moment here, we see that the Blue Jays. What are they're rolling now? They're rolling.
They are
7-1
against a pretty good Yankee team.
I don't want to hear goings, gones.
No, I'm not going to say it.
We don't need any kind of that kind of stuff. But the one thing, in getting discussions about sports fights, if we had to rank them now, last night, and maybe not surprisingly, I don't mind seeing it actually occasionally. You had the Astros and the Rangers, and the always controversial throwing at a guy. But baseball's kind of weird in that, there are inferences based on what's happened in other games, previous games, on whether something's okay or not. So apparently throwing behind a guy, as you know, not okay.
Who's really been the source of the Rangers' offense, and that one thrown behind him. Look out. There it comes spilling over the railing as Napoli took a step or two to the mound. Two. Right there in the middle of it. Here they come. Everybody in. Let's hope this goes no further.
Running in too. The guys from the bullpen running in. So if we're looking at where actually there could be real damage, whoa, what's this? I don't know what. Okay, that's coming from somewhere. We'll get rid of that. If we're looking at fighting in sports, where's the most likely place that you're going to get filled in? I would think that aside from the WWE,
Yes.
which might be first, they have chairs. They have they still have the hidden foreign objects? Is that still?
Occasionally. It's a little old school.
That is old school.
You'd see those in like arena matches that aren't on TV because they want to speed things up. You know what I mean?
I like the dirty guys. The bad guys were good. That's why you're going.
I always liked the referee that turned around at the most opportune time to allow this.
You mean when the manager was pounding on the side of the ring,
It's
going,
like,
"You didn't see that,"
and then he turns around and starts talking to him, but he has to confront him face to face while going under a rope and being the exact opposite of the ring while something is going on.
You never really hear a lot of complaints from the fans about how poor the refereeing is.
Well, yeah, you're never going to sit there and go, man, they should look at their officiating. There's something wrong here.
We have to take a look at the organization and go, are these really the best guys we can get to referee our sport? Yeah, the one guy's 5'9" and 245 pounds. He's tired by the time the second round comes, and all that running around. It can't be easy.
You know what? They look at the officials in Major League Baseball and the NHL, and you know what? And don't tell me you haven't ever yelled at a referee in the NFL for missing a flag or throwing too many flags.
As people know at home watching me, I am very involved with the officiating at home.
Tremendously.
Here's some more into the world of the psychotic adventures of Mike Richards. If you bought my book too, you would have known this is true because I wrote about it. See the cans, the headphones that I have on right now, just like a coach. Sometimes I've been known, if I'm in the heat of the moment, to put these on during a game and kind of chew gum, and then when something goes on, all right, something happens, and then I do one of these. You can't tell me that you don't see the left guard pulling early. Because you're a fucking joke. Go home to your family. That's a joke. They can't hear you. They can't see you. I'm not so sure.
And the cool part is the actual extension. You put it in your side pocket.
Yeah, it's not plugged in.
So it's like, and nobody needs to know that.
There's Marv Albert saying, and Richards is incensed on the sidelines. Yeah, I don't know. Second is hockey. You do something in hockey. For instance, if LeBron James in a hockey comparison, goofing around, he goes by the bench, he just missed scoring a goal, he takes a water bottle out or goes by something and does a little funny little joke, even though it's LeBron James and he's the size of like an apartment building. Don't you think in the hockey world something happens?
Yeah.
Don't you think of let's say it's
the two defensemen when he's doing the beer thing and he's kind of showboating, going, "Oh, I just missed that basket when we're up by 16 at that time." Yeah, somebody's going over there and having a chat with him.
Like I think in hockey, it really wouldn't matter who it was, even if it was an Ovechkin. Look, some of these guys would never do it. I mean, Connor McDavid isn't going to showboat.
Never.
Austin Matthews. It's just because of the wiring of today's athlete, especially in the NHL. This is not something that comes to mind. A guy that possibly would do it, Ovechkin might do something like that.
Yeah, a little bit.
look, it's just not part of the DNA of what the guys do. But remember Ovechkin in the All-Star game, how many years ago was that, when he had the flags on his helmet and did some goofy stuff?
Yeah, but everybody does goofy stuff at
But
that
people-
time. You remember PK Subban dressing up as Jaromir Jagr with the wig? Yeah.
Let's just hope that was for on the ice and a one-time only, is what I'm saying. Let's just not. But, look, I just think that sometimes there are certain sports where you do something, retribution is for real. And I think in hockey it is that way. But once I get beyond that, even in football, but football has a way of evening itself out in different ways, but you no longer get the Conrad Dobler ear slap and leg whip and all the different things that they were able to do to you. But you don't see a lot of football fights either. And that's why I think was it last year when Odell Beckham was in that one game where he just literally can't control himself.
Yes, okay. Yep.
That is very rare to see something that physical, because quite frankly, 'cause after that game, didn't you have a wrecked hand? Punching stuff, grabbing face masks. Like, it's not a sport as physical it is, conducive to starting fights. Fighting is really stupid in football. It doesn't make any sense.
Makes no sense.
And you can get a guy back to a degree, but even still, that kind of stuff, that's way down simply because the penalties are huge, the fines are huge, and to actually hurt somebody, it's really obvious.
Yeah, the only thing good about football as far as discipline is concerned, if you're a coach, if there's a better way of really getting in the grill of one of your players by grabbing the face mask, because it really sends a message fast.
But see, I can see this. We talked about which sports you would have a better handle on coaching or enjoy more. Football kind of lends itself to that sort of world. No one's doing that in the NBA.
No.
Like
no,
even
no.
like one of the few guys, and it was funny watching after the post game where Houston completely fills in San Antonio, and Pop is doing sort of what Pop does in his post game. He's kind of cracking jokes and stuff like that because he knows he has a veteran team that just got filled in. But you have this distance between Greg Popovich and his players. Like you never see an in-your-face to a Greg Popovich. And again, he's one of the few and maybe last of that breed in the NBA where he runs the sideline. I mean, courtside, it is his kingdom. It's his world. There's not a lot of coaches that fit in that category. You will see players turn around and say something to a coach. He's one of the few that won't, but I don't see a lot of that coming down the road either.
And I was going to say, as soon as guys like that leave their sport, because there are a couple of them. We see one here with Mike Babcock in Toronto. I know it's early in his tenure with the Maple Leafs, but it's his roost and nobody else's. Once these coaches, though, leave the game and the new coaches continue to filter through, I don't think we're ever going to see that again.
Well, this is why I was a little surprised, and we haven't had a chance. I mean, obviously, it had happened a while ago. We weren't even on the air at that point. Ken Hitchcock going back to Dallas.
That's crazy.
Did that surprise? It surprised me a little bit as you're sort of going back to the well. The only reason why, to some degree, it makes sense is it seems like the personality of this team, who they have on it, there must be a feeling within the organization and ownership, and I guess Jim Nill to a degree, that they need discipline. But this is old school discipline, Dave. I don't know how the modern day hockey player takes to what Ken Hitchcock is known for delivering.
I think Ken has changed as a coach too. I know what you're talking about because
he attempted it in St. Louis, and that we can verify that the delivery of message did get softened to a degree.
Sure. It's because I'll always remember it in Edmonton too, because my first job in television was in Edmonton, and Ken Hitchcock and the Dallas Stars.
Hold on, wait. Your first job was in Edmonton?
Yeah, working for ITV.
How'd that go?
Actually, it wasn't too bad. I know. I know you're not that fond of Edmonton, but I'm okay with
I've never
Edmonton.
seen the sun come out in Edmonton ever. Of the times I've been there, I don't believe the sun actually hits that town.
So
God's going, you're not getting sun.
So
I gave you Gretzky. You ain't getting sun too.
So I'm covering the Oilers, or at least assisting, because you're building your way up through the system. I'm in Edmonton at the time where the Dallas Stars traditionally would come down with Mike Modano and guys like that and Eddie Belfour and just beat up the Oilers and leave. So Ken Hitchcock, that was basically Ken Hitchcock, taskmaster.
Really tough.
And he was like that on the media as well, because he had a little bit of a following in the Edmonton area. I think he was from the area at one time. And he was a hard ass, and you had to actually be careful asking him the right questions, because if something didn't come out the way he thought it was or should have been delivered, he would call you on it in front of the group of 25 people around. So it was interesting, but I don't see that same Ken Hitchcock anymore.
I don't think it works. But what does work is going down to Dallas, though. Now, there's one of my favorite places.
See, Dallas over Edmonton, yes.
Dallas,
I'll take that.
Dallas,
I think that's pretty easy.
that
if you're working out the bracket, that's a 1 versus 16, right? I mean,
completely. It's that's a great play. Oh, and the Ripper joints down there are fantastic. But you got to dress up. You can't get in if you're working drywall or whatever. You're a painter, and sometimes in the afternoon, let's go see the B team. Gentlemen, put your hands together for Ethel. I mean, one of those. Dallas has none of that. You still have to dress up. That's the one where you have where you go in there and there's a dress. There's usually a cover. Like there's a cover in there you're going to pay, and guys go to the front and you get the ones. You get the little roll of ones.
Yep.
Now I got a buddy of mine probably watching in Dallas. So there's my buddy Brian. Brian said, "This is how you do it. You go in the front, you see the girl, and he gets like $100 in ones.
in ones.
But it comes like a roll. You look like you're kind of going to make it rain, but cheaply is what it is. And so you go in there.
It's a cheap mist.
And Russell, you're going to love this. Have you ever been to a strip joint outside of Canada?
I haven't even been to one in Canada.
Oh,
Okay,
please,
don't-
you're such a liar.
Don't lie. I know your mom's watching and you're saying all these nice things. And so you'll love this, Russell. I'm watching my friend, and Brian said, "Here's what you do." So it's like, "Gentlemen, put your hand together for Fantasia." And she comes, and fairly attractive, goes, "Watch this." Goes up, takes the $1. Goes up. I'm watching him on this big stage, of which they had 3 stages, and it was very high end too, like millions of dollars in this place. He gives it the $1. I see a little chit chat, some giggling, and then an elongated kiss, like kind of a good one, better than I thought. And he looks like he's a cross between Conan O'Brien and like Ryan Stiles, and just as funny.
Okay.
So he comes walking back. He goes, "What do you think of that?" I'm like, "Give me that money." So now I'm looking for the girl, the Mike Richards. I've got to fall in love with one of them now.
Okay.
I have to, and there's a certain look of a girl
There
that,
is,
that
yep.
I like. So it's going by, and it's like, here's Mercedes, here's Juanica, and I'm like, okay, well, blah blah blah. Gentlemen, put your hands together for Maria.
There's the one.
Oh, this tall sort of what's the Modern Family? What's her name?
Oh yes,
Sofia Vergara.
Yes.
Sophia. See, even Russell's going, yeah, Sofia Vergara. This girl comes out. I'm like, this will work for her. He goes, give it a try. I go up there and it's
Good music, by the way.
It's never White Snake.
No.
It's never
No,
it's
it's
not Kiss.
No.
So I go up there and she's like, "Hola, papi," and I'm like, "Oh my god."
Here we go.
So I said, "Excuse me, because this is my first day. Where are you from, papi?" I'm from Canada. Oh, Canada. Did you play hockey?
Yes.
Of course I do. For the Newmarket Red Wings. Oh,
good team.
You look like a hockey player. Yeah. I'm not sure. And before as the dollar's coming up, at the end of it. So I go back and I'm a little dizzy now, because now I'm all in love. I sit down. They have the big wingback banquettes and chairs, and I really haven't spent anything. That's $1. So as the girls come by to ask if you want a table dance, they're like, "Hey y'all, want to dance?" I'm going, "Excuse me, I'm with my girlfriend." Cuckoo. I mean, that was just sort of.
So you haven't tried that move at like a Fillmore's or anything like that here in the city?
Well, in Canada, so you go in there like, "Hi, how are you?" You just talk to me. That's $20. No, I didn't, but nothing happened. Is there no kissing? Oh, there's kissing, just not here. It's behind that cage. Do you see where the broken light is? Behind the barn board that has an X on it. That's where the action happens. No, I think I'm good. But Dallas, that's where you want to go, Russell. So I hope you learned something from that story. Dress nicely, have $1, and get ready to neck.
So would you recommend Russell, fills his pants with loonies?
Loonies may not be the way to
because
go.
yeah,
and then they can't put them in the little garter belt thing
it's
and
different,
stuff
yeah.
like that. So
It's a different game for him, right?
That's a little tougher. But look, now that we're on a topic that's I assume very controversial. This came to our attention, and it's very disturbing. It may be disturbing to the younger viewers.
Uh-oh.
Now, I'm not making this up. I'm really not making this up. And it is the weirdest footage that you're ever going to see. So if you're listening to this as a podcast, trust me, you really want to get to the website and see that I'm not making this up. By the way, I'm not doing the Hispanic voice. This is out of Mexico.
This is a real video.
Courtesy of Barcroft TV. I think it's out of England because the guy sounds smart. He's got the accent and everything. But this is a man with, if we're doing it in Canada, a half-meter penis. This is how the story, well, it's not a story, the documentary goes.
When I was 9, my little penis is growing, you know. It started more growing and growing. When I was by 16, it was by 8 inches. When I was 20, that was by 12 inches. Well, when I was by 25, it was by 12 inches. I moved to USA and start growing too, you know, till now. And it's by 20 inches now.
Well, 20. There you go. All right. You want to see this?
Welcome to my house.
Roberto.
What would you say to people who think that it's not real?
No, sometimes when the people ask me if it's not real, I ask them if they want to see it.
No.
If they want to see it. Yeah.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't look.
Can you show us your penis?
Oh, boy. Oh,
Yes,
boy.
so I can show you.
Yeah. Oh, you can do it? Okay.
Yeah.
Here it comes. Once again, parental guidance and amazement for the children. And, oh, dear. Oh, no, baby. Oh, golly.
Do you know why your penis is so long?
No, I don't know how. Why?
Of course you don't know.
I don't know why my...
Russell, okay. No, good. Okay, that's enough. way to freeze it on that image.
That's terrible.
That is just terrible, and yet...
No, it's just terrible, period.
Can you imagine him in Dallas? Hey, would you like to see my penis? You what? Now that's better than Boris Holming. that has to beat Milton Berle for the things that I've heard. It's so there you have it. That's a true story. That's what we do on the show. We break true stories here on RalMikeRichards.com. Looking at games in the future. Oh my God! Please, Ottawa, don't win. Don't win. I don't want to see it. The Rangers, they got to come.
Rangers
back,
play better on the road than they do on home ice, and now they're on home ice.
Down 2 Cobb.
That's yeah.
No, this surprises you, correct?
This shocks me, especially with what the Rangers gave away in game number 2. That third period, the blown lead, and then you lose in overtime, and man, that's
like at least they didn't do it in a game 7. At least it wasn't Atlanta Falcon like meltdown. But you know what? In some ways, it's how do you lose that lead in that scenario? And you look at
it's a new series if the Rangers win tonight. I'll give them that, but it's also over if the Ottawa Senators win tonight.
If we're looking at the lines for tonight's game, you've got the Rangers at a 1-6 money line, and you're looking at, in these games, it's so tough to try to win by puck line. It's a 2-9, but as you know, so basically you got to win by 2. If you're looking at this game, are you hoping that somehow the Rangers are up and the Senators empty net, you get like a garbage goal in the last, 50, 40 seconds? Because that's a tough way to bet, Dave.
That's a really tough way to bet.
There's not a ton of value, honestly, on betting on the Rangers. You're better off at a money line at 2.45 on the Sens, even though you don't want it. And it sickens me.
I don't usually say this, but maybe I'm just passing on the game.
Yeah. Well, you know what that is. Hold on, wait a minute. We have something for that. Are you ready for this?
No.
Here we go. I'm looking for it. I know it's
just
part
the Russell Graham house band.
This is, ladies and gentlemen, shit music. Here it comes. And now it's time to play everyone's favorite game show. Watch it or bet it. There you go. Watch it or bet it. Everyone's favorite. Complete with shit music, which obviously this is. So watch it, bet it. Are you doing any of this?
I'm watching it because there's nothing else on TV right now.
it's a little lean.
By the way, I'm disappointed about some of these series having 2 days off in between. Like yesterday, there was only the one NHL game, and then the Oilers don't play today when clearly they should have been playing today. They play tomorrow.
This is when it's killer. And I'll be honest, once you get to the Stanley Cup Finals, like, okay, so game number 1 Monday, game number 2 the following Saturday.
Yeah, and the NBA's worse about it.
It's terrible.
The NBA's terrible. NBA will start a conference final in the West and already be on game 3 before the Eastern Conference will start. There's no rhyme or rhythm what actually goes on and how they actually schedule it.
It kills the rhythm of the series. And again, if it's not that engaging, that's how you lose people. And look, by some of the numbers, they can't afford to screw around with the schedule. Also looking at the St. Louis Blues at the Preds, I guess it's going to be another yellow out, which means Russell will be completely dressed for yet another.
He's actually ready to go right now.
A yellow-shirted night. A $1.64 for the money line for Nashville. A $2.35 for the St. Louis Blues.
Tempting.
It is very
tempting to take the Blues to tie this up because I'm looking for a series that goes 6 or 7 games. So that means there's going to have to be a lot of splitting in both barns, and maybe look for the Blues split tonight.
Also, if you're watching here on the show, you're watching it live, or even later on today, if you go to Raw Mike Richards live stream, what baseball team has the cap that I'm wearing? What team is that? Looking for a team.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything.
It's that's a tough one. Here's a couple of tweets regarding some of the content that they've seen on the show. No, he's not acting in a film. Okay, I can't. You know what? I can't read that one. It's too disturbing.
No, that was the rumor, actually.
Oh, I don't.
That was the rumor that a company wants to hire him for that sort of thing.
If that music was behind it, I'd fully watch it. If Roberto was into it with, I don't know, and
he's only 54. Man, who knew?
You like this? I can do more. I can do a somersault. No, we don't. Actually, there's a guy who shouldn't do a somersault. That in the middle of it, not going to be good. Let's take a look at the Anaheim Ducks and the Oilers. That, of course, is tomorrow night. You're getting, and again, this is what's interesting about watch it or bet it. I might bet the Blues. I'm probably not watching the game, but I'm going to watch the Ducks and Oilers. And right now, the money line is pretty interesting for both teams. You got a 2 for Anaheim, a $1.83 for Edmonton. But if you think the Oilers can kind of regroup, because these games teams are winning by a goal. A $1.50, so the puck line is a 3.6 for the Oilers.
That's huge. That's a big number. Yeah. Also, speaking of totals, that totals at 5.5. And right now, just because of the uncertainty of what's going on with Crosby and so forth, that total in that Washington-Pittsburgh game is now a 5. That's the first time this series it's been at 5 because it's been kind of cemented at 5.5 goals.
Looking also at now. You don't like betting baseball, do you?
Yeah,
baseball's hard.
It is. The only thing I do with baseball is matchups, parks. I like run totals more than anything because as a rule of thumb, Coors Field goes over. Yeah. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. But it's so tough.
See if they've got a home game tonight, going all the way down. No, they don't. The Rockies are at the Padres. It looks like the Blue Jays trying to get on some kind of roll. So. Tanaka Latos, that's what's going on tonight. It is a 1.52 for the Yanks. For the Blue Jays, a 2.67.
Tanaka's their ace, by the way.
Yeah, it's for the run line, which I'm not hating, it pays an even 2 if you're playing a little Major League Baseball. Tonight, baseball, we talked about the okay, hold on. I got to get rid of this music. It is shit. That is awful. Russell, like honestly, could you concentrate on what you're doing there? Because, look, we have an entire staff that is doing nothing. Yeah, except complaining about television shows. Looking forward to the NFL kicking up. We had John Crick earlier on the program talking about
have you bet Week Bills. 1 yet? Because usually you're the type of guy that throws in Week 1 bets in May.
And I also take a look at the opening week of
you think
NCAA.
People listening to this think I'm joking. I'm not joking.
Thursday, September the 7th. Kansas City at the Patriots.
And that number actually increased because at one point it was at 7 points, and now I think it's
7.5.
Yeah, it's 7.5.
7.5.
So somebody in Vegas was accepting money and going, okay, that Patriots number is too low. We got to kick it up a half point.
Okay, so let's do this now.
I think it was around the Brendan Cooks trade, somewhere around there that they started.
They changed the line.
Changed the lines a little bit. Yeah.
Here we go. Believe or not believe.
Oh,
but,
yes.
But so you got the Cards at the Detroit Lions. That line -2.5.
Oof. And it's in Detroit?
It's in Detroit.
Cardinals don't travel well, but it's also the first week of the season, so you can't sit there and go, oh, they're tired from all that travel.
But the Cardinals are always a freak show.
It is.
The Falcons.
This might be.
They're feeling good about themselves.
Carson Palmer's last dance too, as a quarterback in the league, starter.
Oh, you would think so.
Yeah,
Even
I'm actually kind of surprised he's still going to be starting.
The numbers weren't terrible last year for him.
No, but you know what?
But they're just another team that I just burn money on. So
underachieve,
I stay away from it.
yeah.
The Falcons, who once again, do you think they could hardly wait for this season to start? I mean, it would be an hour after the game, and they're ready to start a new season because they got to erase what just happened. Falcons at the Chicago Bears, and it is almost a touchdown, -6.5 for the Falcons.
See, and that's jumped up a little bit too because they opened up at 5.5.
I think people would take it.
Yeah, I think people would too.
I think people would take it. The Jags against the Houston Texans. Wonder who you see a quarterback for the Texans.
See, and that's an interesting scenario because the Jaguars have kind of bolstered that offense with a stud running back, another offensive tackle. They've already had some weapons on the offensive side in the flanker positions. The quarterback is suspect at times, but he has had some nice throwing games, and the defense pretty consistent. Like there's no reason why Jacksonville shouldn't finish 500 or better.
Yeah.
But it's Jacksonville, and as soon as they put on those
and
uniforms,
Fournette's going to get the ball 30 times a game.
Oh, if they're smart.
Yeah, they've got to pound the ball.
And then you look at Houston, where you have weapons on the offensive side, but you're missing that quarterback. And the defense is awesome. The defense is top 3 in the league. So I don't know. I'd probably lean on the under. I bet you that number's pretty low too.
You know what? Not as low as you think. 42.
Yeah, I thought it'd be like in the 39s.
Yeah. Well,
39.5.
Maybe by kickoff. The game everyone's waiting for, the Jets and the Bills.
Oh, I know I am.
You get +6.5 points with the Jets.
And I'm taking
that,
that
I think
too.
you'd be taking that one.
Yeah.
A team that a lot of people are going to be watching. Actually, this is a very interesting game. You know, we talk about watch it or bet it. I might be doing both, but I know I would watch it. The Oakland Raiders at the Tennessee Titans. That is going to be an outstanding game. It's pretty close. The total is 52, so you're going to see some points because they both can score.
And this was a pick'em. What's the number now?
It's -1.5 Raiders now on the road in Tennessee.
Okay. See, that's a very good game. 2 young quarterbacks as well. That I would circle that as one of my games. Okay, when you're looking at it, what's your game of the day?
Well, so far, because I honestly haven't looked at this yet. I really haven't. Right now, okay. So that we're looking at the Oakland Raiders. I'll have to go look through this.
I'm looking at the Seahawks Packers. I'm thinking that's going to be okay. Giants Cowboys is always
Giants Cowboys just because
decent.
of that. The Colts and the LA Rams. No, not watching it.
No.
The Panthers and the 49ers. I'm not interested.
I like Saints and Vikings just because it's the return of Adrian Peterson, and it's in Minnesota. It's a Monday night, and of course, in that first week, you have the doubleheader Monday night, which is such a good idea. And I wonder why they don't do that more often during the season. Doubleheader it up on Monday night.
Here's what's weird: the L.A. Chargers.
Yeah, versus
the Denver Broncos.
I don't even like saying that.
I don't know. Can you be the Chargers in L.A.?
Yeah,
I don't like it. No. Well, so far, if I'm looking at games I don't want to watch, so the Monday nighter, I'm with you. The Saints and the Vikings. I would watch the Giants and the Cowboys. That's the late game on Sunday. The Seahawks and Packers, but a lot of times those teams, especially the Seahawks, irritate me. So I am saying, though, that probably for me, that Raiders-Titans game would be...
Yeah, it's up there, isn't it?
Might be maybe the game of the week.
Nice Thursday nighter, too, by the way, Chiefs and Patriots. Don't be surprised if these two teams meet in the playoffs somewhere, too.
Yeah. I wonder if Alex Smith, upon each completion, goes, see, so that's kind of how you do it when you're the starter. I see you looking at me. It's going to be very, very awkward. Speaking of awkward, I think we all feel pretty good about that story out of Mexico. I see there's some tweets coming in on that one.
We certainly do.
I don't know if we... Okay, so Bruno is cheating.
Uh-oh.
No way he has guessed. I'm not going to say what it is, but he has guessed what this hat is, and he is correct. There's no way he knows that. Bruno, you cheated. You looked that up. He said, P.S., my favorite team ever. Well, I'd like to see Bruno, I'd like to see those season tickets because going to those games can't be easy. Let's just say that it is not in North America. And you know what? The world, what do they call it? World Baseball Classic? What do they call that thing? What do they call it? Because that's not really my thing. The Baseball Classic?
Yeah, the World Baseball
Okay.
Classic.
You like it?
Only when I'm starving for not being able to watch baseball for a long time.
The only thing that's good about it is when they have those games in, like, Miami, and the way that they watch baseball in the islands where baseball rules. So your Cubas, your Puerto Ricos, your Dominican Republic, that they bring out the drums and the horns and the stuff like that. Even though it's supposed to be like a Team USA home game, it's not.
No.
And I don't mind it because that's the way they watch baseball in the islands. When you watch, like, if you've ever seen any winter ball, so if you've traveled and been to some of those places when winter ball's going on, it's like a Super Bowl. It's a freak show down there. I get why the players love going down there. Have you ever been? You've not been to a game down there.
I haven't been to a game. I've seen the stadiums though, just kind of curiosity's sake, but I've never been around for, I if I was ever there, and if it fit nicely with the schedule, I would love to see a game. Just like I'd love to see a game in Korea or Japan. I have a friend actually that does play-by-play in Japanese Pro League.
You're kidding. But in English?
No, in Japanese. Yeah.
Dave, I got to be honest. That story sounds a little made up. You have a Japanese friend now? Okay.
No,
all right. No, I'll go on.
He's from Toronto originally.
Yes.
Yeah, we actually worked together at the Score.
Is he Japanese?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So not Stan Richardson. Stan Richardson does not do the Japanese baseball league. Oh, that's a fireball. He's a big hit. No, you can't do that. But you're right. That's a long way to go.
It's a long way to go.
But the Dominican. My problem is I could never. And again, why every story with me is not. They're not family fun, great stories. I would have a difficult time even getting to.
I was going to say, pull yourself out of a bar to go to a baseball game.
Miguel, I don't want to go to the baseball game tonight. Hey. Oh, it's good. Are you an island person? Do you like going to? Have you? Because I think we should take the families to. Come on, everyone. Let's go to Punta Cana. I think Raul Mike Richards.
I haven't been in a while, but yeah, before kids. Yeah, it was a lot of traveling.
But here's what you do, Dave. Every time I get an exciting scenario, I think it's like, well, you have a little caveat about marriage and families and things. I don't think people want to hear about that. I think they want to know the real Dave. They want to know the DJ Styles Dave Bastel.
They do, eh?
Oh, yeah,
there's a throwback.
Yeah, of course they do. We've seen that. We've seen the emails. We've seen the tweets.
We're going to have to get This Is Your Life. No.
Because
we're hiding that.
Yeah,
one.
yours would be okay. All mine would be just. There's a couple of stories that people would just. I'm pretty sure there'd be some legal action. So we would once again like to thank everyone who joined us, and that was John Craig. But a phone call today.
In your face, non-believers.
Yeah, non-believers. We got more coming, including a live guest. Comedian Rob Pugh is going to come in tomorrow in studio. And at the end of the week, I'm thrilled to have Will Strickland. And Will, I guess we can call him NBA insider, played college ball, NCAA basketball. He'll give us the straight goods on, quite honestly, are we still talking about the Raptors in another week? Big thanks to Henry's Cameras, Canada's Camera Store, Avi Studio. We're talking about Eggplant. On behalf of myself, Dave Bastel, and Russell Graham, have yourself a great day. Thanks for watching, and go to rawmike.richards.com.